Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another evening of gaming with me, Seal the Centurion. I hope you're all having a good one. We're going to be diving back into our latest game, Metro Awakening. I really need to look up how long that game actually is, especially since I'm only able to do it in like 1 hour increments. Actually, I'm going to do that now. Main story 9 hours, main plus extras almost 13. Okay, so that means we're around halfway through the story, which means should be by this weekend or a little bit past that we should actually be able to finish that. So that's cool. Yeah, that's going to be real fun. But before we get to gaming, as is our standard practice, we are going to be starting things off with our devotional from Honey from the Rock by Abraham Kuyper. And we are on number 46 today. So volume 1, number 46, which is entitled, He Passed Away to No One's Regret, which comes from 2 Chronicles 21, verse 20, which says, And he passed away to no one's regret, and they buried him in the city of David, but not in the graves of the kings. I always forget how this name's pronounced. Jehoram was a miserable fellow, and yet his father was one of Judah's most precious kings. But he was a father with a weak spot for his son. This is seen in giving his consent to the marriage of one of David's seed to an unbelieving princess. Jehoram had gone traveling and found Ahab's worldly court compellingly attractive. There he became acquainted with the thoroughly wicked Athaliah. Yeah, we'll go with that, Athaliah. And this wanton woman caught him in her snares. This the devout Jehoshaphat had finally agreed that Jehoram, his eldest son and the youngster who would one day wear his crown, might marry this cunning, foxy, lewd, and unbelieving princess. So Jehoram took her as his bride into David's palace. What followed was predictable. Jehoshaphat had barely closed his eyelids and Jehoram been made king before Athaliah took the reins into her own hands. She dragged Jehoram into all sorts of abominable and scandalous activities. This began with the murder of all of Jehoram's brothers and the elimination of the heads of Judah's nobility. It continued with the construction of temples for idols and by erecting high places for their worship. Finally, as written, he literally compelled his helpless people to go whoring after other gods. That's when the Lord stepped in and showed mercy to his destitute people. Pestilence, plagues, and the disaffection of tribute-paying vassals followed. The Philistines invaded. All this was designed to sensitize the people's consciences. But the miserable Jehoram no longer felt the prodding. Finally, the reverses touched him personally, and he was seized by an illness of the bowels that was incurable. Eventually, his bowels came out and he died a painful death. What lay there was a deformed corpse of the fallen king. It occasioned no tributes whatsoever in his memory. We we read that the people withheld paying him any kind of royal homage and lit no fires in his honor. They accorded him no place in the crypt of the kings. Finally, the saying was passed around on Jerusalem's streets: Jehoram passed away, to no one's regret. The paths that Jehoram followed and how he fell out of God's favor are not the same sinful ways in which we cause God to sorrow. That's obvious because we live under different circumstances. The temptations we face have different dimensions and forms from those that he did. But in the end, what difference does the form of our sins make when light is also snuffed out in our eyes? When we are laid out, when we are carried off, when the opinion people have of us in their hearts finally comes out? If it comes down to that, and if people's opinions of us become a prophecy of God's coming judgment, isn't the expression, "and he passed away to no one's regret," also widely recognizable in our own circles? Answer me, those of you who dare to be honest. Don't be misled by the temporary clamor of grief when we pass away. When we cease to exist, the sorrow won't last. Death is always threatening. Shuttered windows are always sobering. A funeral procession evokes emotional responses that pass quickly. No, no, this is not what lasts. What lasts is what comes later. When heartfelt tears have been dried away and the shutters opened again, and when the symbols of grief have been put away, there is really not a deep desire to have back among us those who have been lost. That desire is not all consuming, and is it what we really want in our heart of hearts? If we're honest with ourselves, we have to admit that 7 times out of 10, a year or so later, almost all memory of those who passed away has rather automatically disappeared. Isn't that true, my good readers? When someone else speaks about such a person, when something occurs that causes us to remember the deceased, perhaps their birthday or the date of their death, or when we visit their gravesite, then fleeting memories recur. I know that. But sad to say, even most of these pass quickly. Or they cause such a bitter sadness that in our hearts we really don't miss them. We feel no genuine sorrow, no emptiness, and no wounds in our hearts. There are certainly still many who are living among the silent and largely forgotten people of the land who are not unaffected by death's disruption. In their small and limited social circles, and through their genuine love and self sacrificial demeanor, people become deeply rooted in the hearts and lives of others. When they pass away, an indescribable and heartfelt sorrow is often felt concerning them. They are mourned and missed. People do suffer in their souls over their loss. Nevertheless, brothers and sisters, numbers don't lie. Instances of genuine mourning are very rare and remarkably occasional. In our restless age, the impact of one heart on another has become superficial. The bonds knitting one soul to another today are very loose. This contributes to our superficiality. It causes our total annoyance that permits no quiet devotion or self-sacrifice. This in turn reflects a terrible shortage of love and deeply grounded faith. This shortage is so blatantly awful that even genuine mourners almost always expresses sorrow marred by a bland sentimentality and unchristian superficiality. How distressing this situation can be. It is so distressing that it literally severs the bond between one generation and the next. People no longer feel that there needs to be a connection between those who have gone to their rest and those still living among us. Because monuments are no longer erected in people's hearts. They put them somewhere on a street corner or chisel into the granite of a gravestone what ought to be inscribed on their hearts. It's all external, in stone. So cold, so frigid, so heartless. Maybe this is how people will carry you out. Brothers and sisters, does it have to be the case that the children of God pass away to no one's regret? Whew. That is a different type of devotional from what we've been reading lately, although he does ask some very good questions. And he does make some very good observations. When it's all said and done, people will move on with their lives. Death is only final for the dead. And I've known that. That's one thing that's, for those of you who know me, in the past year, well, technically a little over a year now, but starting this last October and then into February and then into April, I lost an uncle, my grandmother, and an aunt. All with the exception of my uncle, very close family. There every holiday, always seeing them at least like once every few months. I mean, heck, even that uncle lived with my father and my brother and me for about almost a year, maybe even closer to 2. But you think of that, apart from a handful of memories, it's true, I've forgotten a lot of my uncle. I remember more of my grandmother. It's like now every Thanksgiving, Christmas, it's like I'm the one that makes the family banquet now. I carry on that tradition, her legacy through that. And then my aunt, who I saw less than I wish I did, who I wish I knew better, who I wish I knew more about. There's some memories there, but again, so Kuiper points out some very painful but also very true things. But it's always one thing that we have to remember is death in this world. You only die once. And considering what's on the other side, it doesn't really matter how much people here remember you. I think it's more important of how you stand before God. Man, I need to read these devotionals ahead of time because, yeesh. That, whew, packed a bit of a punch there. Well, that is our devotional for this evening. And my controllers should hopefully be good for one more session before I have to charge them. Fingers crossed, but we'll see. That's the other thing. I really need to get like a stand or like a charging dock or something. Because that'd probably make these things a little bit easier to deal with. Let's get VR. No, not VR. It's Metro Awakening. There we go. And then we go into settings, properties, microphone, valve. So then, yep, there we go. Hey, it's Shepherd Athros. Also known as Andrew. Hi, Hannah. Hey, Andrew. And hello, everybody else coming in. You're joining us right towards the beginning of our gaming portion of stream. Taking the cupcake. Hey, Sparkly. Gotta go back to making cookies now. Ooh, cookies. Cookies are good. Well, welcome in, everybody. Hope you're all having a good one. And we need to make sure that this is actually going to be feeding into my headset. Yeah, there we go. And thanks for the lurk, Hannah. For everybody coming in, you just missed our daily devotional on stream. I say daily devotional, it's streamly devotional, but streamly doesn't sound as good. But we are just picking up our playthrough of Metro Awakening, the latest installment of the Metro series. For those of you who do not know the Metro series, it is a series that takes place in the subway system, the Metro system. Yeah, Metro 2033 is the novel it's based off of. But it takes place in the Metro system of Moscow. Essentially, the world has ended in a nuclear war, and these people believe they are the last survivors of the nuclear apocalypse, essentially. And they're living in the metro system, trying to survive, living off of what they can get, but there's essentially towns built in train stations, and there's still essentially World War II continuing on, and just a whole bunch of other stuff. This is a very, very much like a horror first-person shooter kind of deal. So, for those of you who are a bit squeamish, as you can see, there's bones and severed bits and whatnot around. There's also spiders and monsters and other things like that. Loud gunshots and like combat and that kind of stuff. So if this doesn't sound like the game for you, like, I'd appreciate it if you leave a lurk, but I understand if you gotta go. It's not a game for everybody, but always like to give that disclaimer ahead of time. So where we last left off, our character, the doctor, is escaping from a band of slavers who captured himself and his wife. Urlock coming in with the 1,500 bits. Thank you very much. We're going to pause that real quick. Thank you, Urlock. Very generous with the kappa. Interesting kappa bits. Well, thank you for dropping those bits. Much appreciated. Means I might actually get another payout before the end of the year, which means that'll go on this year's tax return instead of the next year's tax return. Which actually I'm okay with. I got new lights and other things like that, so I should be able to offset that, so I'm all for it. Hey, I got a resub. Oh yeah, that's right. I believe Black Sheep was in here last week throwing some gifted subs around, so he might have thrown. Oh, you got a resub. I know Sparkly got a sub from him. I'm not sure who else. But hey, Urlock, thank you so much for the resub. 10 months. The support is always appreciated. But yeah, going back to where we are in the story. The doctor and his wife were captured by slavers. We managed to escape, but not before they took our wife off somewhere. We don't know where. So the power's out. The bandits, slavers, whatever you want to call them, are currently under attack. Or are about to be under attack. So we are going to hopefully be able to find our wife and make sure she's safe. Not you. You. Okay, it is loaded too. We can only do stealth so much, so yeah, I've been trying to do stealth. So we do have our crossbow. So that gives us maybe one shot.
Listen up! Once those gates are sealed, whoever we've got is who we've got. We pull the weapons and then fan out to secure the transporting teams. Are you nuts?
Okay.
You want to wage a
so you can see here
against an army of fucking ghosts? Would you shut up about goddamn ghosts and goblins and shit? Fuck you. I've been saying that
there's language, by the way.
Everyone has heard those voices, even you. You know what? Have a seance with a unicorn for all I care. Just leave your ammo, cause the rest of us have to kill those fuckers, okay?
I missed my opportunity.
Holy crap! Are you shaking? You really that freaked out?
I have seen people devoured by mutants. Other
crazy shit. But what they did to Pavel... God, I wish they'd locked those damn gates already.
Oh, you want me to go out there and ask the Batman to stop doing scary things?
Yeah, just don't expect to run home crying to babushka when your legs are devoured like a piece of shashlik and your guts like a fucking kotleta.
Hey, you two idiots do realize we're under attack, right? Enough with the chit-chat already and do your fucking jobs!
We are under attack!